So last video, my player learned how to walk. Revolutionary, I know. But this time, I wanted to focus on something way more important. A proper interaction system. Because any game is basically just a bunch of systems working together. And if the systems fall apart, the game falls apart. So I booted up Unity and got to work. The core gameplay loop for my game is pretty simple. Escape the dungeon by finding keys and unlocking doors. Very straightforward. Right now, the player can walk around, but they cannot actually interact with the world. He cannot pick up keys, he cannot open doors. So he is basically useless for us. And so I started building the interaction system. First, I defined what an interaction actually is by creating an interactable class. This became the foundation for basically every interaction in the game. After that, I created an item class from the interactable class. These are things like the keys, the nodes, future items, and probably curse objects. Now the player could finally pick up things. But unfortunately for us, picking up an item means absolutely nothing if it disappears immediately afterwards. So the player needs somewhere to actually store items. And for that, I implemented an inventory system and assigned it to the player. With the item system working, it was finally time to create the doors. I created a locked interactable class from the interactable class, which is just an object which requires an item to be used. Then from that, I created a door class. If the player has the required key, the door opens. I tested it and it completely broke. But eventually, after some debugging, I finally got it to work. Now I have a proper interaction system where the player can collect items, store them in the inventory, and use them to unlock doors, which is, half of my game. And this is exactly why good game systems matter. I could have hard-coded every single door separately, but later that would have become an absolute nightmare to manage. Instead, because everything is connected through a shared system, it is easier to create new items or doors or implement new mechanics. Good systems save an insane amount of development time later. Also, you might have noticed I'm using AI for some of the coding, and honestly, that's intentional. My goal with this project is to actually finish and release a decent game as quickly as possible without wasting months. Not the system seemed to work, but if game development has taught me one very important lesson, is that something can appear to work perfectly until you place it into an actual level and suddenly everything collapses. Which is exactly why you should always create a small demo environment to test your system. It makes debugging easier and also helps isolate problems early on. So I deleted the old environment and started creating a proper test level that actually makes sense. Once I was happy with the layout, the next thing I focused on was lighting, which isn't super important for a demo environment. But since I do not really have a main level yet, this was the perfect chance to experiment with the atmosphere of the game. So I turned my level from this to this. I walked through the level and realized something crazy. This genuinely looks uncomfortable. Like, tell me this hallway doesn't look terrifying to walk through. That right there is the exact atmosphere I want for the game. Once the map and lighting were working, it was finally time to test the progression system. The progression is pretty simple. The player starts in room A, they move through room B, and enter a long hallway. In the center, there's a locked gate and a locked room C. At the end of the hallway, the player finds a note. Then when they walk back, room C is suddenly unlocked. Inside, they find the master key. They grab it and finally escape through the gate. It's a simple progression, but enough to properly test whether the system actually works or not. So I implemented everything, and for some reason, picking up items still wouldn't unlock doors, which is slightly concerning considering that's the entire game loop. After investigating the issue for way too long, I finally found the problem. The item wasn't being added to the inventory at all. The game was just gaslighting me into thinking I picked up the item. After fixing that and a few more bugs, the entire system finally started working together properly. And honestly, I'm surprised it works at all. The interaction works, the progression works, and the atmosphere is finally starting to feel good. But there's still a lot left to do. I still need a proper sound design, enemies, textures, better visuals, and honestly, the game still isn't that scary yet. Right now, it feels more unsettling than terrifying. But hopefully, in the next video, I can start focusing on those things. So, yeah, that's the progress so far. The game is finally starting to feel like an actual game. If you enjoyed the video and want to follow the development further, make sure to subscribe and like. And if you have suggestions or ideas, leave them in the comments. See you in the next video.